Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Maui Jim Sunglasses. First Tellurium Corp., the future of mining. And Hardy Rods and Reels.
G'day folks, welcome back to On the Bench. Today I'm going to tie you up the BK Dragonfly variation. It's a variation of Brad Knoll's Dragonfly, the Pemberton Fish Finder, that I've created with some foam eyes. Make sure you have these materials handy before you tie the fly. For hook, I'm using a Togen's Barbless Nymph hook. It's 3 times strong, size 8. For thread, I'll be using Nano silk. I'm using 12/aught in black. You could use 8/aught or 6. For the little tail and the legs, I'm using just Indian hen and brown. It's kind of a brown-black color. The body is Dry Fly Polyyarn by Semperfli, and the color is Caddis brown. The rib will be the Nano silk that I'm using to tie with. Thorax is ice dub and brown. Any ice dub is fine in brown. And for the eyes, I'm using small foam round eyes. So I've gone ahead and placed a little bit of wax onto my thread because I'm using Nano silk, and Nano silk can be very slippery. Makes it easier to get your thread to start on the hook with the jam knot if you use some wax. Let's go ahead and trim this off. Next, I'm going to bring my thread back up and tie in my eyes. I'm just using these little foam eyes. So the original BK Dragonfly has, I think it's bead chain eyes. And I tried this fly with some foam eyes a couple of years ago, and it worked really good. So I've tied it in multiple colors as well. Anywhere from green to brown to yellow to light olive. I'm just going to figure 8 these eyes in. Give them some good wraps. I like to go in front a few times, in behind, and I like to actually just put a couple of wraps around my eyes. Lock them in place. And then you can bring your thread down to the bend. I like to go right down to the bend of the hook. Next, take your hand feather, and I'm just going to take one of the longer feathers. Find one, I'm sort of running out of them. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate the tip from the longer pieces of feather, just so I don't have any stem in there. And I like to just tie it on. You could strip it from either side. I like to just tie it in as a tail just like that, because it's not a very long tail. It's only like maybe a quarter of the shank. So let's tie that in. Once you got your tail tied in, you can take your dry fly polyyarn. And this stuff works great because it floats, and I mean, you can't beat a floating dragonfly that you can fish with a sinking line right on the bottom, but not getting stuck in the weeds. So similar to a gomphaus that way. So fish it at whatever depth you need to fish it, but it's a really nice pattern that it floats that way. Oh, I see my eyes are a little loose. I'm going to tighten those up. If you do find your eyes slipping like that, you can always throw some extra wraps in there. Usually I do put Zap-A-Gap on my eyes. I just don't have any handy with me, but you can also do that as well. And then I'm going to throw a little half hitch or whip finish in before I bring my polyyarn forward. Just get my bobbin out of the way. So you can just begin wrapping right at the base of the tail. And Brad likes to do a nice thick body on his, one of the ones he ties online. I think it's a size 2. It's absolutely giant. I have tied it in a size 2, though I haven't fished it in a size 2. I'm going to go not quite to the eyes. That I want my thorax to start there. So I'm just going to go to where I want my thorax to start and then bring it backwards. Because it is a dragonfly, and I'm pulling very tight too, so it's not going to slide around on the hook. spin around. I'm going to go almost to the back, not quite to the back, and then back up again. And then you can just go like however thick you want your dragonfly body to go. I'm just going to make mine just a little bit of a taper in there. Now I'm going to tie this off. I'm just going to bring it back behind the eyes here. Tie that off. I'm going to go over top of it a couple of times. And now I'm going to be using my thread as a rib, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go diagonally. So I'm just going to start, pull that tight, diagonal, all the way down, and then I'm going to turn my thread and come back up, so it's like a cross hatch pattern. And that's my rib on this fly. Oh, I just lost my bobbin. One sec. So you can see I've crossed over, and that holds it nice and strong. It's not going anywhere now. Next, you can take another one of your hen feathers. Trying to find another one with some longer hackle. I'm going to strip the fluffy stuff away from the stem. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few off each side and just tie them in on the side for some legs. I'm just going to catch those there, tie those in, and then take some off the other side and do the same. Make sure they're about even, like that. And then next I'm going to take my eye stub, my brown eye stub, and I'm only using a very small amount of the eye stub to get it started. So I've got a very skinny little noodle. I'm just going to fill in this thorax area. Couple wraps. I might just take a tiny bit more. Really like this brown eye stub color. This thorax. It can be a bit scruffy, that's fine. I'm just going to snip away a couple errant pieces there. And now I'm just going to bring my thread forward and whip finish. And with the Nano silk, I like to give it 2 whip finishes, and I don't bother using head cement. Snip that away nice and clean. And that's it, my BK Dragonfly variation, otherwise known as Brad Knowles Dragonfly, the Pemberton Fish Finder. Thanks for joining me on this edition of On the Bench. Take care, everyone. Conserve the waters and tight lines.